Welcome to the session. My name is Moushumi Dey, part of the Talent Development and OD team of TVRLS. Today is a very special occasion as we have the opportunity to dive deeper into the latest insights of the highly anticipated second edition of the book HRD Scorecard 2500 Points that have revolutionized the way organization measures and improve their HRD practices. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to have with us a distinguished scholar, revolutionary, a luminary, and a visionary in the field of HRD and OD. Please join me in welcoming one of the father of HRD in India, Professor T.V. Rao, Chairman TVRLS. Welcome to the session, Professor Rao.
Thank you, Moushumi.
Thank you very much, sir. So I have this wonderful book in my hand, which talks about the second edition of HRD Scorecard 2500 Points.
Yeah.
So what really inspired you to come up with this second edition of the book?
Number one, pandemic.
Okay.
I think post-pandemic, the entire work life has changed. Some people thought before the pandemic, HR is going to disappear. But pandemic has put HR on the central focus.
Right.
Suddenly we saw the Prime Minister becoming a HRD manager by clapping for people, by educating people to wear masks, keep distance, wash your hands, all those. Not only that, even CEOs started doing it. So that means everyone recognizes the importance of continuous communication, health, competence building, and things like that. So post-pandemic, I thought that HR has become more significant than before. Number one, therefore, HR departments have a very important role to play. And number two, HR has become the job of everyone, not only the HR people. So I must say it is the pandemic that pushed us to relook at the HRD scorecard. In fact, instead of saying HRD scorecard, while it is based on audit, we said it should be more for self-renewal post-pandemic. We didn't put the term post-pandemic on the title of the book, but this is what mostly inspired this. It so happens it coincided with Sage closing down its textbook division.
Okay.
So anyway, there was a need to relook at the book, so it gave a good opportunity for us to relook at the HRD scorecard 2500, incorporating whatever changes are there. Okay. So that is what is largely the changed role and new focus of HRD becoming a job of everyone, and the significance, renewed significance of HR function.
Right. So it's a renewed significance that Professor Rao is talking about. So you mentioned about some of the pressing challenges, some of the opportunities that HRD people have. So if I look at, how HRD is evolving, what are some of those updates? What are some of those best practices that people can expect to find in this book of yours?
Most important thing is we always use it to say almost for 30 years, not for 50 years. 50 years is the beginning of HRD, but last 30 years we have always said that if you are a HR person, every bit of the organization goes through you. Finance and HR are two functions to learn about an organization. But people have not paid adequate attention to this. Post-pandemic, it is not only the organization, I think even the society, your contribution to society became significant.
Right.
You're concerned about not merely your employees who are on your payroll, you're concerned about daily wage laborers, contract labor, you're concerned about what is happening in the community. If the community is not healthy, your employees are living in bad conditions, so you can be sure that they won't be able to attend office, give their best. Work from home, which created all kinds of its own kind of dynamics and things like that.
Right.
And in some ways the HR's focus extended from employees also to the board. You have to educate the board.
Right.
And then your shareholders who constantly expect. Suppose you are running a hotel and there are no takers during pandemic, and hotel is converted into a hospital. Who is going to be communicating to the entire society, assure the stakeholders, shareholders particularly, don't worry, when things get better, we'll all come back and things like that. So it is the changing HR role. If you ask for new practices, HR's role on one hand has expanded.
Right.
On the other hand, it has got focused. But managing this dilemma is a significant kind of a thing. If a manager can manage this well, he or she is doing better than a CEO. In fact, you are well set to be the CEO. And you may say, no, I don't want to be the CEO. I'm quite happy to be a HR manager because the CEO is doing very mundane things, whereas I am doing larger kind of things and so on. I mean, that is the important practice that one can talk of, important change in the perspective in relation to HR, post-pandemic and so on.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Absolutely, sir. You mentioned about the stakeholder management, which plays a very very important role, and this is getting a lot of emphasis nowadays. So again, just as in the passing, you mentioned about COVID, which has impacted globally, where employee well-being has taken one of the significant steps by various organizations. So if I have to look at the role of HRD, how it has impacted post the pandemic, what are some of the major things that you feel the company should be doing to take care of such?
Yeah, let me come back to the HRD Scorecard 2500.
Right.
I'll answer your question using this scorecard. I think we have very well developed HR systems. Competency mapping.
Right.
The basics have not changed. But in competencies, you have to revisit post pandemic and have to retest your models. If health is a concern of everyone, then I think it should find adequate weightage in the CEO's job, everyone's job.
Right.
Competency mapping principles remain the same. So when we look at the HRD scorecard and assign certain number of points for competency mapping, it changes. Manpower planning,
Right.
fundamentals remain the same.
Absolutely.
Or performance management, your KRAs get changed. Suddenly KRAs of people will become, if they are working from home, how do you manage the remote teams and things of that kind. So the systems have not changed, but the way you look at them get changed. That is how in the scorecard, when you assign these points, you are looking at, is the system structured well, is it being communicated well, all those kind of things, talk of them. Similarly, if you look at competencies, we have done recently a book, Arvind Agarwal and me, I'm sure you have seen that book, Leaders in the Making,
Right.
where we picked up 30 top level leaders and came up with a competency model for HR.
Okay.
And I was very surprised. When we did all this research and came up with competency model, in the first edition of HRD audit itself, 80% of these competencies were existing. In 1995, exactly the same process we followed. Dave Ulrich's subsequent model, SHRM model, and UK's model, all these. So we are well within the global trend in terms of identifying HR competencies that are required. But in the scorecard, we are not only concerned about HR competencies, we are looking at top management styles.
Right.
There is not much change there. I think at TVRLS, we have been doing a lot of work on 360-degree feedback. Although the interest on this for some reason in the country has somehow gone down, it may be because of other reasons. Maybe coaching has substituted this. We don't know. You know better because you are doing a lot of coaching for people. So in the second set of competencies are broad enough.
Okay.
Culture and values remain the same. In the values, I've been talking about graduating from Octopus to Octoplace, which included purpose
Purpose.
as a value, learning as a value, and discipline as a value.
So these are the three
These three
major
are
things
included.
which have
These
been
three are
added.
included in this. So accordingly, we have changed the 500 points scorecard on HRD values and culture. And the last part, impact, remains more or less the same. Intellectual capital, even today, it is recognized. Human capital is recognized. Financial performance is recognized.
Right.
But we gave, of course, a special place to work from home. That's what it is.
That scorecard is very,
I
very
don't know again if I answer your question.
Absolutely, sir.
But yeah,
Definitely.
these are the.
So you just mentioned about the impact, the HRD interventions has on the organization, which is again the fourth pillar of your book, which talks emphasize on the fourth pillar. So if I have to look at some of the KPIs matrices, what role does data analytics plays? When I look at the impact, measuring the impact and ROI. If you can just throw a little bit more light on this.
I think it's a little complex question to. The whole world is looking at profit and money as the most important measure of any impact. This was so pre-pandemic. I thought post-pandemic it will change. But some unfortunate reason it has not fully changed.
Okay.
But there is an awareness. Why I say it has not fully changed is a year after the pandemic subsided, everyone started talking of intangibles. But 2 years after that, which means already now, people are beginning to look at value addition, but for them, value addition means money. So they're going to. So if you ask me, HR's role is to constantly draw the attention of everyone to intangibles and say money is not always, I mean, profits are important. If you don't have a profit, you're not likely to survive, only to the point of survival. But don't make enormous amounts of money, because you know pretty well you're not going to take it to the grave. That is what it is. So you have to tell people you are contributing a hell of a lot if you can make people healthy, happy, committed, loyal, value driven, collaborate with each other. So these are the new currency. So HR's job, on one hand, is to help the CEO certainly achieve the profit driven targets. On the other hand, to tell him that is not the only thing. If for some reason you don't make profits, don't worry about it at all.
Right.
So there are days when you have to convert a hotel into a hospital. So they may not make money, but don't try to make as much money in a hospital as you are trying to make in a hotel, because then you probably will kill people.
Absolutely. So what I understand from you, sir, while hard data is important, which is measurable,
Yeah.
and which leads to the tangible part of it, but at the
Yes.
same time, soft data indicators are equally important.
Yeah.
So
Balancing
balancing both
tangibles
of
and
it.
intangibles.
Yes.
In our scorecard, in the last 500, we have given only 50 points for financials
Okay.
and 450 points for intellectual capital.
Right.
So I would think this is, even before the pandemic, we envisaged this.
Absolutely.
But I don't know, maybe even that has to be revisited.
Okay.
And if your values are good, so in the scorecard you say 3 pillars are very strong, fourth pillar, intellectual capital, is strong, then you have done your job.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. I may be a loss-making company, but I've changed the life in the country. Okay,
Right.
good. That's off to you.
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
Right, absolutely, sir. So, if any of the business leaders or HR professionals would want to come up with this scorecard, or probably implement this kind of a scorecard, so what kind of suggestions would you offer to those people? Like, how can they go about so that implementing becomes much more streamlined?
I think the first thing that is happening in the country is most people are using shortcuts.
Okay.
If you see a video like this, or any short video or a film, then you have already acquired knowledge. My first suggestion will be, please don't be satisfied. This is only a beginning. For example, I think there is nothing can substitute reading a book.
Right, absolutely.
Not just a summary, but I think any book, not only this book. You can't just look at Sudhamurthi's stories and only look at the summary and say this is what she. I think read the entire story, then you really get to know what all happened. So I think reading habits of people. Second is try experimenting. Once you have read something, you try experimenting. You don't always look for somebody to come and help you. Nobody is going to teach you. You are your teacher. So if, for example, if I have a book like this, if I am a HR manager, I have already done my masters, I have so much of experience. I use this to see, can I review my own HR systems, HR climate, or all tools are there in a book like this. So this is the second thing, that implement it, don't wait for somebody. But for some reason you say, no, in my company I have no time, we are a running stream, I need to really take some time off. Okay, take a couple of days off, go through a course, go through a certification, or appoint, I think, a small committee to review it, to have. I think it's not at all difficult. I think in 2000 hours of work that you have in a year, can't you find some 10 hours to pay attention to the kind of things that we are talking about. Then, with little investment, you can change the entire outlook of your company. This is what I believe. So, I would recommend read conceptually, certainly, train yourself, apply this. The most important learning is when you apply it. And if you have no time to apply, constitute a team of line managers. I don't see any reason why you can't have a cross-functional team, somebody from finance, somebody from production, somebody from PR, all sit together, read the book, examine our own HR systems, and then give your scorecard, give our scorecard. I think that enriches them and then makes them to be totally different.
Right.
So we are at TVRLS, we are planning, maybe we can offer such courses for all line managers. Anyone who is interested, we'll expose you to 10 sessions. Just listen to us, understand how to score, then score, establish your own scorecard. That's the way we think I.
Absolutely. And I recall you mentioning that, every manager is their own line. Every line manager is an HR manager. So that
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
emphasize on the learning part. And so you also mentioned about the new scorecard that you have come up with post the pandemic, related to the pandemic, I would say, which is about work from home scorecard. I'm sure, our audience would be very much delighted to hear what is the content of the scorecard, what is it in the offering of the scorecard. So if you can just throw a little more light on that.
Yeah, actually, work from home scorecard, work from home is treated like any other system, like a performance management system, a competency mapping, manpower planning, career development. It gets 70 points here. Of course, the 70 is notional. You can raise it to 100, 150, whatever it is, but it is a significant part of it. Uh, when we were actually working during the pandemic on this issue of work from home, and we conceptualized, I mean, actually we experienced it, comes
Right.
through experience.
Absolutely.
When you are working from home, you need to have technological support. If you, and technological support doesn't merely mean having Wi-Fi,
Right.
a whole lot of other things
Right.
that are. Second thing, you need to have the right kind of personality. There are some people who just can't work from home
Right.
because they always want a particular place, work environment, and things like that. Whereas some others can work from anywhere. So, are you, your attitudes and personality is shown this way? Third thing is, some people, their social structure is such that whether they like it or not, the moment they set it home, there will be father-in-law coming and asking questions, mother-in-law, mother, children,
Right. Lot of
neighborhood,
interruptions.
lot of other kind of interferences.
Right. Right.
So how are you able to manage these interferences? If you can't manage the interferences, how can we create the right kind of a thing and so on? So that is how our work from home suitability questionnaire. In fact, you have worked on it. You
Absolutely.
yourself applied it to one of the nationalized banks, and
Absolutely.
you had some interesting experience
Right.
of helping them back by coaching them. You can't always depend on the organization to create conditions so that you can work from home. Same thing with performance. If I'm not performing well, I can't always blame my company. Oh, you are not providing the right kind of climate. I should take charge, because ultimately, for whose benefit is it? If I don't perform well, it is bad for me. It is bad for the company, but company can get rid of me, but I can't get rid of it.
Right.
Same thing, work from home. If I'm not able to work from home properly, I should manage my working from home well, so that at the end of the day, I'm satisfied. If I'm dissatisfied, it creates psychosomatic problems for me, for my family, for everything. Okay, I have not dealt with all this in the scorecard. Scorecard only looks at system. Do you have this system? Can you diagnose it? Can you make life easier for people so that they are able to effectively work from home? By understanding this, by coaching, by providing the right kind of technology and so on. So we have a questionnaire here, which you have successfully used it. So I think it is something. And you have the usual system where we ask, is your policy structured well? Is it communicated well? Is it having the right kind of an impact? All these kind of things. So I think this is how we use it in a few organizations. I think I thought it is good, but only unfortunate part of it is that HR people, they are quite good in terms of administering questionnaires, but when it comes to using feedback and making improvements, they feel that their target is achieved. It is only administration and not the. Sometimes it creates issues, but I hope the scorecard helps people to look at it and improve remote working and other kind of things.
Absolutely. So it's more like a diagnosis,
It's a diagnosis,
diagnostic
yes,
tool,
yeah.
and the outcome should be utilized in a very proper manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And that
So-
scorecard is diagnostic too.
Right.
It's a diagnosis
It's a
to tell you
diagnosis.
out of 2,500 points, where do you stand? What is the, in any subsystem, if you are good, compliment yourself, strengthen it further. You're
Absolutely.
weak, then try to overcome this. And the scorecard gives you what are the areas where you are weak.
Absolutely.
what it is.
So I'm sure that it's very insightful for the audience. You know, they have got a lot of knowledge about the second edition of your book, sir. So thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time.
Thank
It
you.
was very
Thank you.
insightful, very innovative for all of us.
Thank you
very
for
much, sir.
asking good questions.
Thank you very much.